Hey everyone, Michelle back with another spooky Reddit read for you. Today, I didn't get a lot of feedback, but I decided to do a couple of stories here about time slips. So today we're doing one of those. Sorry, it's been a couple days. I've had some migraine issues and trying to get back under control. So hope you enjoy it. The story is called The Time I Ended Up in a Town That Doesn't Exist, and it was posted on a subreddit about 3 years ago. They start saying this is a cross post from another subreddit, but I wanted people's thoughts on it, as the whole thing is still a mystery to me and it still sometimes gives me nightmares. Though the nightmares become less frequent with time, also going to add in a couple of small details that weren't in the story on the original post because of a couple people asked on the original post, and I can see why it would be relevant information to have immediately available in the post itself. Back in the summer of 2011, I was 19 and had relocated my living situation for a few weeks while I was in between apartments. Long story on its own. Due to my relocation, I was pretty far from my work and I'd have to drive about an hour south on the Highway 45. At the time, I worked in Spring, Texas, and I could get away with a lot of stuff because we were too short-staffed and I was one of the more experienced on our night crew. On my first shift, having to drive to work from the new area, I ended up getting a bit turned around or lost. I was driving on what I thought had been the highway, but after a bend, it suddenly transitioned into a single-lane road, and then further down, it transitioned to just a dirt road. Ever since it stopped being a highway, there were no areas to turn off. I left my place around 7 p.m. to arrive at work by 8 p.m. for my shift. This happened around the midway point of the distance, so although I didn't check the time when it happened, it'd be fair to estimate to say that sudden change in environment happened around 7:30 p.m. It got to be a little uneasy when I went on a full 20 minutes without a single spot to stop at or turn around and without seeing a single other car. I saw a bridge coming up and I thought, okay, surely there has to be somewhere to turn around up wherever this bridge leads to. Then I saw it. You are now entering Atostocia. I'm going to spell it for you because I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. Atoscotia. At this point, I was already going to be super late for work no matter what, and I figured I'd just send my boss a text and all would be fine. No signal. Figuring, what the hell, I'm going to get in trouble anyway. May as well check out this place for a few minutes and see where I ended up. It was very unsettling. The town looked like it had been abandoned for decades. Buildings all around looked to be falling apart in terrible disrepair. Not a single building had a light on, and there were no cars or people anywhere in sight. The roads were a mix of some dirt roads and some normal roads in varying states of disrepair. Hell, I didn't even see animals anywhere as I drove through. I could tell as I drove that this town was essentially an island. Every direction seemed to have a beach, a bridge that connected it to land, at least from what I was able to see as I drove around a higher elevated area. After about a half an hour of driving around, unable to find any signs of life, I managed to find my way back to the bridge I came in on and got the hell out of there. When I got to work about 2 hours late, my boss called me back into the office to have a chat. I'd been working there since I was 16 and I had never so much been a single minute late, so he was willing to hear me out. I told him the honest truth of what happened and he seemed increasingly concerned as my story went on. He and another coworker looked on a map out of curiosity since they'd never known of any abandoned towns in the area and found some place called Atascocia and assumed I had misread the sign. But when they opened the Google Street View, Atascocia was nothing like the town I had seen. The only thing they had in common was sort of a similar name and one bridge that connected it from across a lake. But the town I was in surrounded by water and had bridges and connecting it in each end. I'm only in contact with one coworker who was at work that day, and he's convinced somehow I got a bustling old-style town like Atascocia. This town is spelled that actually exists. It's Atascocita. So that's the town that actually exists. So the coworker believes somehow she confused that with a long abandoned ghost town that she actually saw, even though they had nothing in common, just because we couldn't find the other town she saw on the map, which was spelled Atoscotia. 2 years after, when I went back to live in Spring for a little while, I did try finding the ghost town again, and this time with the intent of filming while there to prove it existed. But alas, no matter how much I retraced my steps, I was never able to find that strange empty path to that bridge again. As a little end note, I'm typically not super comfortable sharing this story with many people for obvious reasons. Lots of people would probably think I'm crazy because I'm adamant I was in a town that no one could seemingly find any evidence of ever having existed. From the few people who I've told over the years, I've gotten answers like slipping somewhere in time, that it entered some kind of spirit world, something, that I slipped into an alternate reality, and the most common was that I fell asleep on the highway. Though, while that last one certainly sounds the most grounded on the surface for those who have driven on 45, I'd have 100% died if I had fallen asleep at the wheel in the late evening / early night on the highway. Accidents are common there, even among totally alert drivers, and I'm not sure what to make of it all. As unsettling as the event itself was, retracing my steps later and not being able to find any trace of what it was, even more so, honestly, if I ever ended up back there somehow someday, I'd film the whole thing. Now, she's got some edits on here, so we're going to look at these. Several comments are asking questions about important details that'd be simpler to have in the post, as for whether I ever went to the other town to confirm it wasn't where I ended up. I have gone there for that purpose. It is a totally different direction from where I'd been driving when all the weirdness happened, and I still wanted to check it out for my confirmation, and I can 100% say that the town that my coworkers thought I was in was not the one that I was in. The only commonality between the two is kind of similar names. As for if there were street signs, traffic lights, recognizable brands like a Walmart being present or something, there were street signs, though sadly I could no longer recall any of the road names. There were street lights. They weren't working, scattered throughout. I did see buildings that looked like gas stations and grocery stores, but none of them had a name on the building. I generally assumed this was just from the passage of time. To clarify on a point in the post, the town was in major disrepair. Many buildings had parts of them that were just straight up falling off or collapsed, and some buildings even looked to have mild damage on some walls or the rooftops. As for the style of architecture, to help everyone clearer picture, it was really tough to tell due to the states of the building, but the closest approximation I could see was Greek Revival architecture. The design seemed mostly basic and simple. Though there were a handful of buildings that had asymmetrical designs, it's hard to say if it was a result of the buildings falling apart or it was the intentional design. Okay guys, so what do you think? What do you think happened to them? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. I honestly don't even have my own thoughts set on this one. It's just a really interesting story. So I don't want to make this video too long. Please drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk it out, and please hit all the buttons in the repost for me. And those of you who are doing that all the time, I really appreciate you. Thank you.